Some of you might have watched the special that I put out back some weeks ago where I talked about the coming corrective period in silver and gold. And I had said in there at the time, now gold and silver were well below the peaks that they made because we had a exhaustion move to the upside before this peak was made. And then I said that there was likely to be a correction out towards the end of the year. That still holds up, and you can see what happened in here as silver moved up to 53.76 and then came all the way down over here, very close to that 50% support level right over there from the minor cycle low. There's the minor cycle low. That's the minor cycle 50% level right over there. And that gave you this pullback, which does not look complete to me. Now, let's look at why it doesn't look complete. Let's look at this cycle right over here. Now, remember, when I say look at a cycle, what I'm looking at is a particular rhythm, a repeating pattern from low to low. You see this low here, and you see this low here. So that's this cycle, and you can see how it almost perfectly matches the timing on this. This is not an indicator. This is a cycle bracket, which is a drawing tool. So we use that to see the rhythms and look at the rhythm here and here, here. Very perfect, as you see that. And what that suggested was that a correction was coming out to here. Now, if I look at the daily chart, I'm going to use this to fine tune the situation. So here's the daily chart right over here, and you can see that there are also good rhythms in there. So this declining phase right over here, or that right over there, you can see that aligns with gold. There's the gold declining phase right over there also. And now we've had a break. Now, a break of this support level, which is very important. Later on, we're going to show the cycle analysis workshop. And in that workshop, you learn about all of this, the messaging that comes from the shapes of the cycles and the importance of when they peak, when they trough, and when they break key levels. Now, when you have this break right over here of that key level, let me blow this up a little bit. You see it got down to that support zone that we sold right over there. We said right over there. But then this cycle over here is suggestive that this comes out to sometime mid-November. So that's about 2 weeks from now before this daily low comes and completes. That says to me, first of all, this is broken. So there's a high probability that this is a bear flag that's forming in right over there. RV just highlights these flags all the time, and they work so well when you get the break. So you have a momentum that turned down right over here. Positive momentum this whole time, and you see those arrows there. Those are signals that says the momentum was likely to resume on the upside. Fantastic signals there to come from the slim ribbon PO. Then it neutralized right over here, and actually this got negative right there. That tells us there's a high probability that not only are there 2 more weeks coming right over here, but that this flag is likely to break down. So once you see it getting underneath that kind of little support that's coming up there, you know it could fall down over here. Here is 45.10. Right over here is $43. So those are downside targets that we see right over here looking at the silver market. So if you extrapolate that there's 2 more weeks right over here, potentially, see these blue lines, it's plus or minus a few days. Then you can go back to the weekly chart right over here and say, well, that makes sense because the ideal trough over here is also mid-November. So that's a beautiful alignment that we're looking at. And the messaging that we get from these cycles is that the correction is not over, but it could conceivably be over in 2 weeks, somewhere around that level of 45 to 43. Now, I want you to note something right over here. That goes out to mid-December, this next cycle. If I look here on the weekly and I think about mid-December, and I just take another vector out over here, and here's where mid-December comes out. That shows you that there's a potential that you could even get lower out into December, or that it will make the bottom as we're talking about here in November. So we don't know for sure if that next daily cycle over here that we don't even have a trough for where it begins is going to actually contain further decline over here. But the shape of it and the information from the momentum conditions will help us with that. Right now, we're looking at conditions that are in conflict because the weekly is still positive, as you see right over here, and the daily is negative. When that happens, you very often get your first low as the low. And then it begins to set a trough, even if this next cycle takes a little bit longer and you kind of get a test of the bottom in there. But you get an idea. You could get a lot of chop right over here over this next month, month and a half, as it fights its way down into the mid 40s or even 43 and then tries to rally because there's lots of bulls out there and I'm a bull. So I mean, I have a lot of silver and I want to add to it when it begins to pull down. So that's my really in-depth analysis of the silver market. I thought I'd do some teaching around the cycle analysis there because we're running this special that we're going to tell you about in just a little bit. And it's just the best way to really understand the markets. Every type of analysis that you can look at is going to be confusing in some way. And psychoanalysis can be just the same thing. But when it's giving clear information, it's just phenomenal. So you could see that right over here as this strength was coming in here and the market going up and the bullish signals continuing to come here on the daily. I mean, we had every reason to believe it was going to continue going up, just as I have almost every reason now to believe the correction's not over yet in the silver market.